This is for my 40 plus expert women in business. That is who I mainly work with. And there have been so many conversations around confidence online that I really just wanted to sit and have a bit of a yap about the things that I'm seeing and how you can really start to shift your thinking. The longer that you stay stuck in whatever the belief is, whatever the thought is, which we're going to talk about today, the longer it's going to take you to build your personal brand and to really get hold of where the market is right now because it is moving fast. Not to scaremonger, but we've got to keep up. And we don't have to do what everybody else is doing, but you do need to be visible and you do need to start creating from a place of authority because you are an authority, which you and I both know. You've been doing this for a long time. You know your stuff inside out. You have so much knowledge. You could fill books. You could stand on stages. You could run a whole lecture series on what it is that you know. But for you to show up and share something in a 60-second, 10-minute clip and video feels so hard. And I want to talk about why that feels hard. And this week alone, there have been a number of questions that I've gotten from my clients that I think showcase this really well. And the first one is a client that said, yeah, I just haven't really been creating. And I said, why? And she said, yeah, I just haven't had the chance to do that. So there's a couple of things in this because obviously we hear this one all the time. I don't have time and I just haven't had the chance to do it. And you're never going to have the chance. You have to make the time and create the chance. And so one of the mindset shifts that you need to have and a professional practice that you need to get into is making a decision about what your priorities are, understanding what your strategy is, and then what your priorities are based on that strategy. So, for example, if you're like, I need to attract new clients into my business, what is the strategy you're going to use? Are you going to be writing on Substack? Are you going to be creating YouTube videos? Are you going to be posting on social media? What is the strategy that you're creating? Based on that strategy, what does that need to look like? Are you going to be posting every day? Are you going to be posting once a week? What are you going to be posting? And how does that align to building the know, like, and trust or the top, middle, and bottom of funnel? How are you attracting new people? How are you connecting with the ones who know you? How are you making offers to the people already in your audience? And so when you decide on the strategy, then you have to commit to it. You have to be like, I know what my strategy is, and now I'm going to show up and commit to actually executing on that. And I think that when you're either lacking a strategy or you haven't committed to the strategy, that's when the whole, I haven't really had a lot of time to do what I'm supposed to do because the conviction isn't there where you're like, I know why I'm doing it. I know what the result is that I want to get. I know that I may not be great at it now, but the more that I do it, the better I'm going to get. All of those thoughts are going to come into whether you're showing up or not online and doing the stuff that you really want to do. That is going to move the needle forward, and that is aligned to the strategy that you've made a decision to commit to. The second part of that is the belief. So you might have a strategy. You might have done the work, written it down, but you don't have the belief that if you were to show up, it would help you to attract more clients. It would help you to connect with more people. And so when you don't have the belief, even though you have the strategy, you're not going to show up because you're like, what's the point? Even if I show up, I don't believe this is going to help me. And early on in my coaching career, this was something that I had to learn the hard way. I had come from a consulting and strategy background. I'm somebody who's like, okay, we've got the strategy. Now we're going to execute on the strategy because I knew why we were doing the strategy. But when I came into the entrepreneurial space and I was doing strategies for female small businesses, I missed the point about belief. I missed the point about mindset, which is why I then became a certified mindset coach because I was like, why are you not doing it? And so it has to go hand in hand. You have to know what the strategy is, why you're doing it, make sure that it fits what you want the outcome to be. But then you have to have the mindset and the belief that, yes, this is going to work. Otherwise, your behavior is not going to follow. And when you don't have a professional practice, and what I mean by that is that it is not how you feel as to whether you do it or not. It is just something you do. It's like brushing your teeth. It's not like in the morning and at night, you go, do I feel like brushing my teeth? No, you do it because you know that by doing it, you're going to have better teeth. You're not going to have health issues. You're not going to be embarrassed to go to the dentist. You know that it's good for you. You know that it works. And the same goes for your strategy, whatever that is, your brand strategy, your marketing strategy, your sales strategy. Do you know what it is? Do you know how to execute it? And do you have the belief behind it to actually make it happen? So that was the first thing. And I think that no matter how long you've been in business and really whatever age you are, that remains universally true. The second thing that I was talking to clients about this week was around storytelling. Now, I think that if you're Gen Z, they've grown up with storytelling. They've grown up with being online. They've grown up with pulling out their phone and just yapping away. But if you are Gen X, this is not something that we've needed to do. But that's where the market has changed. And so one of my clients was saying, Suze, how do I share stories about myself without it feeling embarrassing, where people might be thinking, look at me, look at me. And I did say to her, do you ever look at other people sharing their stories and think that? And she said, no. I said, okay. So when it comes to sharing our stories, I really want you to think about why you're sharing the story. Like, what's the point of sharing the story? Even in this video, I'm sharing stories with you from my clients that I've had these conversations this week. And the reason that I share the story is because, number one, most people can relate to the story. It's like, yeah, I've been somebody who just didn't do it or wasn't consistent because I don't have a strategy. I don't believe that it's working. And so I just didn't show up. Or you might be somebody who's like, yeah, I've really struggled to tell stories too. So when we share a story, it helps people to come into what it is that we're trying to share with them because they can relate to it. Yeah, I totally get that. I know somebody who's been through that, or I've been through it myself. And so when we were talking, I just said to her, I really want you to think about, there's a little framework that I use. I call it HALO, just to remind you of something really easy, is that the first thing is the hook. Now, can I just tell you, I am just as sick of people talking about hooks, but it's really just opening up the loop where you're capturing their attention to let them know that if this is something that they struggle with or something that they want, that this story might be relevant to listen to for them. So I could start mine with, if you're somebody that struggles to tell stories, I've got a really simple framework for you that I've used and that my clients use, and that has really helped us to share our stories so much more. That could be the hook. That was a very long hook. The first sentence is really what you want, but you get my point, is that somebody who listens to that is going to be like, yes, I struggle with stories. Tell me more. You're going to start with the hook. What is the thing that they're going to want to learn, listen to, hear that is relevant for them? What was the action? When I say the action, what actually happened in the story? Beginning, middle, and end. The next thing is the lesson. What was the lesson you learned, the aha moment, the thing where you were just like, oh my gosh, that makes it so much easier. Or yes, I learned this lesson and it completely changed the way I do X. And then the fourth thing is O, which is the opportunity. So what's the opportunity for the audience to take from your story? The opportunity for you is that you now have HALO as a framework that you can use when you're storytelling, which is hook, action, lesson, opportunity. And I just used to do that naturally whenever I was sharing a story. Because I've been a speaker for a really long time, I always come back to what was the lesson and what's the opportunity for you. So even when I'm speaking on stages, that is something that I do. Have you ever struggled to do X? There was a time when I struggled to do it, and this is what happened. And you know something? The lesson that I learned when I went through that struggle was this. So what I really want you to take away from it is that you can do X. That is the flow. And so really think about how you want to use that. But I also want to catch the thought that our stories are embarrassing, or that we're trying to get attention by sharing our story. And I think that when you really understand where we're at in the market at the moment, then you can start to understand how you can share your story even more, and that it's not cringy. It's about connection. And the fact that you probably listen to people's stories all the time, but you don't recognize the value in sharing your own story. And so there's lots of different stories that you can tell. You can tell your brand story. How did you get to where you are right now? You can tell pivotal moment stories. So when you go through your brand story, there might be pivotal moments in your life, your career that really shifted who you are, where you were, what you decided to do. And then you've also got other people's stories. So that could be client stories. It could be stories that you've heard online. It could be books that you've read. And I think that is also really powerful because we get to create this collection of stories that help us to communicate lessons and values and help our clients shift in the direction that we're here to help them shift in. And the last thing I wanted to share with you was a conversation I had with one of my clients who's a 7-figure agency owner who knows so much. But so often, as I said, when you're an expert, you find it really hard to chunk it down. And what I mean by chunk it down is take snippets of what you know and create powerful content around it. Because we're like, I've got this huge framework and I work on really complex projects and I work at a really deep level. To take one thing and share it can sometimes feel insignificant or shallow. But when you are an expert, one of the key skills that you have to learn to do is communicate at a simple level, to communicate at a 13-year-old comprehension level, so that you're not sitting in the curse of knowledge, making it really difficult for people to understand you, where you come from, what you know. We want to really take what we have and break it down so that we can teach people it and position ourselves as the person who makes the complex simple. And I think I remember the team from StoryBrand talking about this, is that if you can't simply explain complex things, then you don't understand it well enough, which is a challenge as well. If you hear that and you're like, oh, I know my stuff really well, but I find it hard to simplify it, then that is a skill. So really thinking about, how am I making what I teach simple and easy for people to understand? How am I creating bite-sized content that is kind of like the breadcrumbs in Hansel and Gretel, where you leave those breadcrumbs and people can follow them to be able to understand what it is that you teach, how you teach it, how you help, so that it leads to you. And when you can start to communicate in really simple and easy ways, that's when people keep coming back because they think, oh my gosh, you've made something that's really hard to understand really simple and I love it. So now you're going to be my go-to person. And one thing I always say to clients when they try and explain something complex to me, I say, explain it to me like I'm a 13-year-old. And they have to sit there for a while and really think about it, but then they explain it and it's so much easier to understand. And I said, that's what you need to communicate. Because when we're communicating online, people are moving fast. And if it takes them too long to understand what it is that you're trying to share with them, they're just going to scroll on. And so those are 3 things that I wanted to share with you today. If you are over 40, you're a business owner, you're wanting to get better at building your personal brand, number 1, make it a non-negotiable. Have a strategy, have the beliefs, execute, make it a professional practice. 2, share your story. Share your brand story, your client stories, other people's stories that help you to illustrate what it is you want to share and communicate. And the 3rd one is make the complex simple. When you do that, you build your authority because you make it so easy for people to follow you, learn from you, and hopefully work with you as well. If you need any more help with this, you know where to find me. I talk about personal branding all the time, but I work with so many clients who are in this age bracket and at that level of expertise. And I know that it can feel hard sometimes, but I just want you to know it's so much easier than you think when you've got the right guidance and the right frameworks and the right beliefs and mindset to actually execute on it.